Before we get to this episode within the Time to Train podcast, I want to remind you of all the great workouts we have across the Time to Train family of brands. We have Bar with McCall. We have Cycling with Kelly. If you're in the 55 plus community, there's Mary Draper's channel. If you're into HIIT workouts, HIIT cardio, dumbbell workouts, you can catch me, Tyler Valencia, on the screen with any of those. Make sure you subscribe to all our channels within the Time to Train family, and I'll catch you on the screen. Welcome in on another episode in the Time to Train podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia, and I am one of our instructors over with our brand of YouTube channels. I teach the HIIT, dumbbell, and beginner level strength training classes. In this episode, so this is, as you probably noticed already, a non-video based episode in the podcast. As always, thank you for listening. I know there's a lot of podcast options out there. So thank you for taking the time to tune in and listen. I'm going to be talking about tips for building a workout routine that works. Now, with this episode, I do have to say right off the bat that this is not a step-by-step guide, do this, do that, do these reps, do that exercise. Not one of those episodes or kind of guides. This is more of a, here are some tips that I feel like can be really practical. Some of them very obvious, but maybe have not been applied in a more meaningful way. And some of the items I've seen across the board in terms of in YouTube ads, TV, social media, whatever that might be, they've been kind of muddied. And let me take another second here to pause to say, if you are listening to this episode on YouTube, you could always catch up on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or vice versa. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can always catch up on YouTube. And while you're there on the YouTube, make sure that you subscribe and check out all our other great brands within the Time to Train family. We have Bar with McCall, we have 55 Plus with Mary, and we have cycling workouts with Kelly Favre. So whatever you're looking for, hopefully we got an option for you, and all within our community, our brands of workout channels. With this episode, want to make sure that you get these tips and continue to build throughout 2024. At the time of this recording, it is late January. It's early 2024. Had to recheck what I was about to say there because time does fly, and I cannot believe that we're already going into the second month of the year. And with that being said, what kind of got this episode rolling or made me think about what are some other tips that I could put a part of this was a couple months back, I shared this kind of stat. I have I'll call a colleague, or I have a friend that was in the same doctorate program as me, and he used to work for one of the most recognized gym chains across the nation. And he had said how there is a percentage of people that purchase a gym membership and actually never end up going in, that they don't even walk into the gym despite purchasing this membership. Because if you are, like many people, early in the year, that's when people purchase a membership, and oftentimes they don't end up using it, which sounds, it's sad because that's money that you're never going to get back. And a tip that I had last year, and this is not even related to the ones I'm about to go over, was to invest in at-home gear instead of in a gym membership. And I'm not trying to be anti-gym or anything like that, but it was because I saw so many people investing in a gym membership and not really utilizing. And there's so many reasons that go into that, but I do want to make sure I mention this because with creating a routine that works, oftentimes we have this false sense of what a plan should look like. And I'm kind of skipping ahead right there with that one. So I should just get right into the episode with it. So with the first one I'm going to talk about is not all exercise needs to be intense. Now, this is one that stems from when people used to say no pain, no gain. And I've seen more and more people talk about this, more fitness instructors, that is, talk about that you don't need to be in pain when you're working out and those types of things. And that mentality of no pain, no gain. I think that leads beginners. And that's where I think some of my mindset is, how can I get beginners to be able to develop more effective routines or more consistent routines? Because if this is what you hear, if you hear, oh, you need to be putting your max effort into everything, you need to make sure that you're doing exercise until failure, you might not even know what that means, and you might end up injuring yourself. And let me give you an example here. When I used to work as a personal trainer, and this is when I lived in Long Beach, California, I worked at this gym chain, and I had a lot of clients pretty quickly. And I had this client that used to work with a different instructor, and she would all of a sudden just intensely go at an exercise for the last few reps. And I would ask her, well, what's going on? What's going on with that last little burst that you're doing? And she was told by a different instructor, and this is by no means me trying to say anything negative about the instructor. I don't even know who it was. She was told that if you're not failing at each exercise or going until you are tired, that it's not going to count. And I just kept thinking to myself, and it always stood with me. Obviously, this was probably, let me think about this. It had to be over 15 years ago. I was just so shocked. Like, well, why would you do that? You're just learning this new exercise. Don't you want to learn the movement? Don't you want to learn how to do it before you try to max yourself out on it? There was just so many different things that were wrong with it. So getting back to, not all exercise needs to be intense. Yeah, even another part of that is, not even does exercise need to be at a gym. I think that we sometimes get caught up in, this is where I was getting ahead, that we think that a workout plan, it's all needs to be at the gym. It all needs to be with a barbell. It all needs to be with dumbbells. And I think that what exercise looks like can be different for everybody. And I think that is one of the newer outlooks that I've kind of had over the last year as I've picked up new hobbies. And I've honestly stayed very consistent with all of them, is that with exercise, my time in the gym has actually decreased. And part of that is that I film 2 to 3 times per week. So I don't go to the gym on top of that because of the type of workouts that I film. But with activities and finding things that I'm doing, sometimes it's a more active recovery. So it's not super intense. I'll give you an example here. One of my favorite activities is disc golf, and it's not intense, but it's kind of active, but it's recovery at the same time. It's not super intense. And one of the cooler things that I would say about fitness trackers these days, and I'm just speaking from the one that I'm wearing right now, is that it gives me a readiness score. And it tells me potentially what duration of exercise might be suitable for how long I've rested, how I'm feeling for that day, those types of things. And that can give you insight into, should I be pushing myself today? And I didn't sleep well tonight, or last night I didn't eat well, whatever that might be. I don't feel that great. Take that into account in creating your routine. And with being ready to exercise, I think that those questions will potentially help you with creating certain days. These are days that I do this type of workout. These are days that I do that type of workout. And with wrapping up this one, a part of why I even created a newer format for my YouTube releases was that sometimes I don't even do intense workouts myself. Sometimes I just go in my home gym, I do some reps, and that's it. I just call it some day. I take a lot of time in between because I'm not trying to be super intense with it, but at least I got my body moving. And that's kind of the goal of that strength and stretch workout that I created, because some days, if you're tired after work or you had a long week, pop on something that's easy and go through it. Get your body moving, get your body prepared for maybe that next day. So now you can cross off that you exercise on a certain day. So you have your routine, you keep your consistency, and you also feel good for the next day. You're not piling on top of it and trying to take your body to the max when you're technically or physiologically not ready for it. Tip number 2 here, and this continues on the same thread, is invest in activities that you enjoy. I think, again, that we sometimes think that all exercise needs to look a certain way, be in the gym, when maybe it is outside. Maybe it is riding your bike, hiking, walking your neighborhood, jumping rope, things that might not be the sexiest, may not be what all the cool people are doing or what your neighbor is doing, but you enjoy it. I think that's one of the big things that you should take away from that is if you enjoy it, there's a good chance that you're going to come back for that next session and take that and add it to what I said with not all exercise needs to be intense. If you enjoy it, you're not extremely exhausted because you took your body to the point of failure. I'd say that's a pretty good chance that you're doing 2 workouts, 3 workouts, 4 workouts per week. And all of a sudden you have this routine built compared to somebody that took their body to the max and they're struggling to get for that second day because they're in so much pain because potentially doing incorrect exercises for where they're at physiologically or fitness wise. And all of a sudden you are stacking exercise days, one on top of the other. And after a few weeks, you're looking back like, wow, that was much easier than I thought it would be. So invest in activities that you enjoy. Third tip that I have for you, and I just gave this one to a buddy of mine that takes workouts on the channel, was about stretching at any point in the day. And I personally stretch at the end of the day before I'm going to sleep, not exactly before, but as I'm getting pretty close within that last hour and a half. And it's not even like it's long. And I put this one in here because I think some people think that stretching has to be yoga. Stretching has to be, a warm up. Stretching is their vision or view of stretching is not as, I'll say is much more extensive than what it needs to be. It can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. The stretching that I do, I think it's 14 minutes long and it's not many exercise, but I feel fantastic the next day. And often stretching can be great for before you fall asleep. And so a part of putting this one in there as well is how recovery plays a factor in everything when we're making a routine. I talked about intensity with the first one. I talked about activity that you enjoy. Now with recovery, stacking up days back to back or more than 2 in a week, recovery plays a big part of that. Yes, nutrition can play a part of that, but also what type of recovery activities do you have a part of your routine? So recovery, it could be stretching, it could be walking, it could be taking a hot bath with salt, it could be a jacuzzi session, it could be a lot of different things. But these types of activities, they can really play a big role, in my opinion, with those next days. And some of the recovery that I do, it's a little more active than maybe some might consider. Like I said, disc golf or maybe I'm going bowling on a recovery day because it keeps my body moving. I'm not stiffening up, and maybe I'll do some stretching at night and preparing for those next sessions. So stretching, it can be any time of the day. Right now, if you're listening to this at work, all of a sudden take little breathers. Stretch for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, stretch your calves, stretch your quads, whatever that might be, and just sit back down and be like, oh, wow, that actually does feel fantastic. And I feel great. Like I want to do more of that. That's really the hopes that I hope you get from listening to that one. Next tip and my last one that I have for you is mix intensities and formats within your weekly routine. So this one hopefully dives in a little bit deeper into that. What I would say with your routine and when you're trying to plan out what you're going to be doing is you don't want to be exhausted midweek. And this is coupling your work schedule and your external schedule, like in terms of like family, friends and family, with all these items that you're putting into there. So you have all these pieces that are part of the puzzle. You wouldn't want to stack these super intense exercise on days that you have a long day of work. You have a lot going on in your schedule. But at the same time, of course, you want to create consistency in your week. So maybe it is tinkering with it. So you try a week out and all of a sudden you realize, oh, wow, like I was super exhausted after that week. I didn't want to do anything over the weekend, or I didn't want to do the same thing the next week. I'll give you an example here is with my workout schedule. Of course, a part of it is my filming schedule. And I realized that I was filming my 30-minute classes. So I do either a 30-minute HIIT cardio or a 30-minute dumbbell. That's HIIT style. It's intervals and circuits. I was doing that on Tuesdays for a next Monday release. And I realized that really was intense for me at that point of the week. I didn't have enough time to recover and do more intense later on our activities. So I actually switched it up. So I started filming those on Fridays, and then I put in my shorter 15-minute Tabata workouts on Tuesdays. A little bit shorter, still intense, but it gave me enough time to recover, gave me enough time to complete my work schedule. And I didn't feel like I was starting off such a high when I was coupling it with my mountain biking that I was doing on the Mondays. So I moved things around. I tweaked it up so that work, exercise, family, friends, all those things, responsibilities, all those things can still go on, and you don't feel like you are just completely run out of energy by the weekends. Tinker with it. It's not a set in stone thing. It can be something where you can adjust and make it work for you. I think part of this one in there is also the way that exercise is portrayed. Oh, if you don't do it today, you're never gonna get it done. Well, maybe I'm adapting it. Maybe I'm adapting my schedule to where I'm at. I feel like I see these ads on YouTube about consistency, about goal setting, and all these different things. And people are at such different stages in terms of their fitness, their wellness journey, that the ability to tinker, to adapt, I think plays a much bigger role with creating that consistency. Yes, goal setting can be important. Do I think it's the most important? It's hard for me to say that. And I know this varies for everybody. I know that everybody has their goals, their triggers that help them, but I can't tell you the last time I had a fitness related goal that involved exercise. I know that I stepped on the scale once in the last maybe 6 to 8 months. It doesn't do anything for me. I don't know what I'm going to do with that number. What does it matter? What pops up? What I do think about though is, okay, how can I make sure that I do my biking, my filming 2 to 3 times a week, my disc golf, my bowling, all these kind of things. How can I do those things and still feel better and have more energy to do my work, to add more to my workload? Those are all pieces that I feel like really play a factor in a routine and making a routine that works for you specifically. Like I said, that's the name of the title of this, a workout routine that works for you. These tips have really been ones that I've seen unfold over the last few years for me, because I know that times in my exercise routines and workout journey, when I was goal oriented, it became tough, and you beat yourself up over these things that really don't mean that much in the long-term scheme of things. And so I hope that these tips have been useful for you. To summarize it, big thing, adapt. Take away, adapt, being able to be flexible with your routine. Find those things that work. Don't be stuck on, I have to do X, Y, Z on this day. I have to do this workout on this day, or it's never going to happen. Because what happens if you don't do it? Do you beat yourself up about it for a whole week or 2 weeks that you never get back into it? Or do you adapt and you think, okay, maybe that wasn't the best day. Let me try a different routine on that day. Let me try something else that helps me stay busy, helps my body move, and helps me feel good about myself going forward. This has been it in terms of tips for building a workout routine. My name is Tyler Valencia. Hope to see you in another episode. I'd like to know what you think about this non-video based one. I didn't really think that me staring at a camera for the longevity of this episode would have been that entertaining. So that's why I did it audio only. I am thinking about doing more of these. I do them for my other company, but are more for fitness, health, and fitness professionals. This one being more general pop and hopefully helping beginners create that routine that really does help them for the year. That is really one of the big priorities in my mind, is helping beginners get going, find those steps that get them going. There is a big majority of people that hopefully we can empower and figure out routines for them that help them get something going. It doesn't have to be huge, doesn't have to be the most strenuous workout, but I always think about them because that is one of the big things that our country, our world faces, and hopefully I can make an impact on that. Thank you as always for listening. My name is Tyler. I'll catch you in the next one.